One positive in all the madness was the fact that after a shaky start, Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, well, he discovered finally that he had a pair of balls and finally stood up to the old Donald and refused to just roll over and do what the Donald wanted him to do. And so the Donald did what Donald always does. He rants and threatens and shouts. Here's Donald's appraisal of Starmer.
By the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with. By the way, I'm not happy.
The man's no Churchill. Well, Keir Starmer should take comfort in that observation. And he should also take comfort because of the comments of environmentalist and investigative journalist George Monbiot, who gave a concise and brilliant explanation as to why not being compared to Churchill, in relation to Iran at least, is a good thing. Here, Monbiot explains how the imperialistic intervention of Churchill and his aim to steal Iranian oil, aided as always by a big brother, the USA, well, it led directly to the subsequent brutal reign of the Ayatollahs.
Trump says he's no Winston Churchill. Well, in this respect, I'm very happy that he's no Winston Churchill, because Winston Churchill did intervene in Iran, and we are living with the consequences of that today. So Churchill and his counterparts in the US launched a coup against the democratically elected Prime Minister of Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh, in 1953, because he was nationalizing the oil industry. He said, this oil belongs to Iran, it shouldn't be all captured by the Anglo-Iranian oil company and siphoned out of our country and the wealth taken away from us. A perfectly reasonable position, but Churchill wasn't having any of that. He prompted the US, in particular the CIA, to launch a coup, overthrew Mossadegh, who was a highly popular leader. He was revered by his people to an extent that very few of ours ever are, and installed instead, reinstalled the Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, with his brutal, cruel regime. And when that regime was overthrown in the Iranian Revolution in 1979, one of the main reasons that people gave for that new revolution was the overthrow of Mossadegh in 1953. So we are now living, or rather the Iranians are now living, with this brutal and horrible Ayatollah's regime, which was instituted in response to what the British and the Americans did before. This is what's called imperial blowback. And we think we're being so clever and so brilliant in wading in to countries about which our governments often seem to know very little, plunging in and firing missiles and staging coups and all the rest of it. But we don't think of those long-term outcomes, those long-term consequences, and the absolutely catastrophic effects that they can have many decades down the line.
Now Trump's anger wasn't confined just to the UK. He let rip at other European nations who refused to help him, especially Spain.
I think he's fantastic, but some of the European, like Spain, has been terrible. In fact, I told Scott to cut off all dealings with Spain. Spain, first of all, it started when every European nation, at my request, paid 5%, which they should be doing. And everybody was enthusiastic about it, Germany, everybody. And Spain didn't do it. And now Spain actually said that we can't use their bases, and that's all right. We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it. Nobody's going to tell us not to use it, but we don't have to. But they were unfriendly, and so I told him we don't want to. Spain has absolutely nothing that we need other than great people. They have great people, but they don't have great leadership.
Surprisingly, a matter of days later, the White House announced that Spain, they had bowed to US pressure, and they were going to allow American planes to take off from Spain.
With respect to Spain, I think they heard the president's message yesterday loud and clear. And it's my understanding over the past several hours they've agreed to cooperate with the U.S. military. And so I know that the U.S. military is coordinating with their counterparts in Spain.
You hear that? Believe this or not, you'll not believe this considering everything I've said so far. This was a lie. This was another lie. a blatant lie and something Spain was very quick to point out was a lie.
Spain.
La portavoz de la Casa Blanca acaba de decir que España ha acordado cooperar con el ejército de Estados Unidos. ¿Esto es verdad?
Lo desmiento tajantemente. Según venía para acá, me han llegado esas declaraciones, he tenido tiempo de poderlas ver y oír un poco. Lo desmiento tajantemente. La posición del gobierno de España sobre la guerra en Oriente Medio y los bombardeos en Irán, sobre el uso de nuestras bases, no ha cambiado ni una coma.
¿La portavoz de la Casa Blanca está mintiendo?
Será la portavoz de la Casa Blanca, pero yo soy el ministro de Asuntos Exteriores del gobierno de España y le digo que nuestra posición sobre el uso de las bases, sobre la guerra en Oriente Medio, sobre los bombardeos en relación a Irán, no ha cambiado en absoluto.